It's 6 o'clock. I like to be timely. I'm Charlie Johnston. I'll bet you most of you already knew that. But in case you didn't, I figured I'd tell you on that. As far as timeliness, I do want to say I'll speak for about 45 minutes. Sometimes I've gotten very garrulous and gone over. If I do, oh well. However, after that, questions and answers. And ask whatever you want to, then I'll decide whether or not to answer it or not. And after I get done with the main speaking, with my portion of it, we'll stop. If you have to go, go. Feel free. I know how that goes. At 8 o'clock, I'll interrupt the questions and answers because I say these things are going to go 2 hours. It's very important to me. There's nothing that irritates, well, there's a few things that irritate me more. But one of the things that's one of my pet peeves is when somebody's doing some sort of a religious meeting and they say, we're going to be there for 2 hours, and suddenly they're going on for 5 hours. And if you want to get out of there, you kind of slink out and feel like, you must be the lousy heathen in the crowd. It's our duty when we do this to respect people's time. And if any of you give religious programs, and I'm sure some of you do, respect people's time. When you go over like that and don't respect them, you drive people away. And now we are called to bring people back. I appreciate the respect that I'm shown by so many. I'm going to show you some respect. I also want to tell you, at the end we have some Flame of Love booklets and some Prayer of Miraculous trust cards. There is no charge for anything that I bring along on it. Take them, but Anthony Mullen, the national director of the Flame of Love devotion, he sends those booklets out to every town I go to. I would ask that if you're not going to use it, don't take it. If you're not going to use it, but you have somebody that does care about it, then take it. I'll leave those with Karen Dembia and Andrew Dembia, who are the coordinators here. It's a very good devotion, and I think it's something that's appropriate for our time. Now, Anthony adds the Flame of Love portion to every Hail Mary. I'll make a little confession here. I only do it to one every decade. It doesn't matter how you do it. I mean, it does. Just do it on the thing, I loved somebody who told me, somebody was telling me that they often don't finish their rosaries and that they get tired or whatever, or everything. And a fellow that was with me said, just throw your 2 coppers in. When you can't do it, throw your 2 coppers in. And that's one of the things. If you can't do everything you want to do what you can. You know what I mean? Don't let it discourage you so you don't do anything. Now, here in Jersey, New Jersey, glad to be here. One of my spiritual directors is from New Jersey. I love New Jersey. I've spent most of my life in Chicago. So I am very familiar with the ethnic Italian community. And that, in fact, my children's godfather is Sicilian, pureblood Sicilian, I know all that sort of stuff. The difference between Chicago and Jersey is that in Chicago we have a vibrant Italian community. Here in Jersey, I don't care what nationality you are, you're all Italian. But I'm familiar with it. I had one fellow that told me, to let go and let God, bada bing. I told him that I don't think that's actually considered a prayer outside of New Jersey. In any case, respect your time, I want to let you know a few things. Like I said, all the questions that you have, I'll answer. I'll do my best. Some of them I may not answer. But the portion that I want to get to, the first thing that I need to get through, oh yes.
Oh yeah.
This hat was given to me by Father Mitch Pacwa. We hit it off. We just had a ball a week ago Thursday. In fact, there was a dinner, an EWTN manager was having a private dinner for me on there and had a lot of people. It ended up with like 40 people at this dinner. Father Mitch and I had hit it off so well, he gave this hat to me because I was admiring his hat. And I told him, I'm going to wear this all over the country and tell everybody this is my Mitch Pacwa hat. He said, you go right ahead. But when I went over to the fellow's house for dinner that night that was going on, he looked at me and he said, did Father Mitch give you that? I said, yeah. He said, he must really like you. He doesn't give anybody one of his hats. So I'm pleased to wear it. Now, I want to tell you, how many are you familiar with my website? Have read through it? Okay, so a lot of you. You'll have some questions. The first thing I want to say, I'd like to begin with, is that God loves the ordinary, and so do I, and so should you. That is where we find our salvation, is in the ordinary, doing the little things that are right in front of us. Now, those of you who don't know the website, I'll tell you a little bit about that. The reason I'm doing this, the reason I started the website, was since I was a kid, I have had visitations. That's not the important thing. I've had visitations very simply. An angel was put in charge of training me, developing me, told me that there was a time coming in the world that would be the greatest crisis in the history of civilization, that God had work for me if I chose to accept it. But it would require a lot of work, a lot of training, and a lot of dedication. With what I was shown of the crisis, I thought, well, you know, somebody ought to do it. I actually thought that probably I was kind of nuts, but that I'd follow it. And I think I was 7 or 8 when I figured out that not everybody has this. You have to understand, I come from Southern Fundamentalist Protestants. Any of you familiar with Southern Fundamentalists? Down there, everybody talks about what God told me and all that sort of stuff, so nothing seemed odd about that. But the only thing that really seemed odd was that what he was telling me sure didn't sound like what he was telling them, you know. But I was about 7 or 8 when I realized I heard the story about some guy that had shot some people because of what the voices said to him. I thought, whoa, I kind of figured out what was going on and that this was not normal. So I talked to my angel. I told him that I enjoyed this. I mean, what's not to like? He tells you something's going to happen. Happen it does. Amaze your friends, amuse your family. What's not to like about that? But that there were a couple of conditions I was going to put on it. And I'm not going to tell you all the conditions now, just a couple. One was that the minute he told me to do something that would hurt somebody, then I would go to the doctor, confess all, and the jig would be up. You know, we weren't going to do that. And the second thing was that I was glad to go through the training and continue. But before I would ever act, there had to be an authority on earth that I could submit to with my whole heart. And that had to allow it. That had to confirm it. And I figured, you know, if this is truly from God, God can do anything. Now, most of my life, actually, I thought he'd be upset. He was not upset. In fact, he was tickled. I like to say I thought he was going to take me out for ice cream. He was so pleased with me, but he didn't. He actually had a couple of conditions for me, too. And he told me it was going to get harder as it went along, and it did get harder. I mean, one of the things, when people ask me what's going to happen, and that one of the ways it got harder is he'd tell me something that was going to happen. And then happen it would, but not at all like I expected. It would have like an O. Henry twist to it. I got so frustrated for a while, I asked, you know, why do you bother at all? If I'm not going to know until it's happened, what's the point? There is a point. I mean, he finally had mercy on me on that. And that is, on none of this is it for us to know the mind of God. These are mileposts. We are not, including me, partakers in his secret plan. Now, I know some folks, I've said this before, I said it in Birmingham just a few days ago, emphasized, some people think that wouldn't it be cool to have an angel telling you what to do? No, it's not so cool. Well, actually it is pretty cool. Let me correct that. However, they think that it's like having a GPS that tells you turn left in 3 miles. Well, it's not. It's hard. It's brutal. That's not how it works. Basically what you get is this is where we're starting. This is where I want you to end up. And then you get a bunch of stuff, landmarks and all that sort of stuff, not route numbers, but landmarks. Look for the rock with the moss on it next to the oak tree. I got to tell you, there's a lot of rocks with moss on it next to the oak tree in this country. Figure it out, and he'll tell you whether you done good or whether you didn't along the way. I want you to think for a minute about the man with the withered hand that Jesus healed. He came to Jesus for healing. Now, Jesus could very easily have healed him just by thinking it. But what Jesus told him was, stretch out your hand. With the withered hand, that was probably painful for him. And yet, Jesus insisted on it. We're all to stretch out our hand to him. God never interferes in our free will. He wants you to make a decision. He's not going to tell you how to do it. You already know what you need to know. Make decisions, take responsibility for it, and then God will help guide you. People say that if they could just see, they would do. They're lying to themselves. No, you wouldn't. The more you do, you know the difference between right and wrong. Do the most right thing you can, and as you do that, the more your capacity to see will be. But let me tell you, if you knew exactly what it was, you wouldn't be so eager for it, because all it does is give you responsibility, give you burdens, as it is. The main thing is, if God ever decides to speak to you in the thunder, don't worry about it. You won't miss that if he does that. What we do need to worry about is that he speaks to each and every one of us 1,000 times a day in little whispers. And the very best of us pick up on maybe 5, 6, 7 of those little whispers, and there our salvation does lie. Do what's right in front of you. It's why I insist on the simple way. I mean, I love St. Teresa of Lisieux. Simply, when I started reading her after I came into the Catholic Church, I thought, yeah, that's exactly it. God loves the ordinary, the simple ways on things. That's what you need too. You've got several abuses that go through. You've got some people, and I'll be blunt, maybe some of you here are that. They're storm chasers. They're always looking for the next apparition. They're always looking for the next pulsing light, all that sort of stuff. Well, if you need something to be showy and magical, you got a problem. Because the devil knows how to do magic too, and he'll be glad to oblige you. Do what's right. Then you've got some people that, I've run into this, I have a lot of theologians that are very kind, that help me and guide me, but there are some theologians that honestly, they think that God is their greatest creation ever.
They are greatest.
Exactly, that's what they think. They think this is a massive game of Dungeons and Dragons, that they are the masters of it, and if it doesn't go through, they completely turn their nose up at anything that suggested God might have real power. It even speaks in the New Testament, I believe it's in Timothy, about people who bear a form of godliness while denying the power thereof, and it doesn't compliment them on that stuff. Understand that we are the little ones. Here's why taking responsibility is so important in what you do. God never interferes in our free will. When you take responsibility and do just the little you can, what you're doing is you're inviting God, by acknowledging God first, you're inviting God to come in. And he is the God of abundance. He multiplies the little you can do. You can only do a little, I can only do a little. You set God free. Now, you have no power over God except by letting him work through your will. So the key thing, what the next right step really means is don't get grandiose delusions. You can't do huge things. Not a one of us can. And when you worry about that, you create problems. That's a vanity. Don't be paralyzed by how big the problem is before you. Just do the little that's right in front of you. It's just like when I was walking across the country on my pilgrimage. I didn't get up thinking about what my final destination was each day. I probably thought of it through the day. What I had to be concerned about was the little walk, the 12 to 15 miles I'd probably get that day. And some days, I only got a mile. If I was going uphill, up mountains, I'd be exhausted. Sometimes I worked harder for that mile than I did for 12 or 15 miles. I was not caught up in any macho pretensions. If I walked 5 minutes and felt tired, I sat down and rested. I wasn't particularly strong. I wasn't particularly elegant. But by gum, I was a stubborn son of a gun. I was going to keep on going. And that's all you need to do, is keep on going. If you stumble and fall, get up and rise again. There's a saint who said that the truest mark of a Christian is not that he never falls, but that he always gets back up again. That's the key to everything. Get back up again. In fact, one of the things that will pull a noble soul down, they think that this couldn't happen to me, which is also a reverse form of vanity. I'm too good to do that. And then they do something that they never expected they'd do. And when they do, they go into despair. They're too ashamed to do the basic things that you think. Anything, not anything, but the noblest souls will do the dumbest things sometimes. They will sin. If you do, get back up humbly. Always like the fellow praying, have mercy on me, a poor sinner. That's all you got to do. And then be a sign of hope to those around you. The critical part of that is, I'm pleased right now that several of those, I've had 3 of the survivalist blogs I know of that have started linking to me, and I've had some of those survivalists say, you've made me think that we've got it wrong. Because I insist, if you go and you're going to be a prepper and you're going to try to shut everybody else out, well, you got a problem, because God knows where you are and he controls the lightning bolts. You know what I mean? The whole problem with what we've got is that we think we're sufficient to ourselves. That's what this storm I speak of is. It's to deliver us from the delusion that we are sufficient to ourselves, that we do need God. And the way that we most authentically reach out to God in this life is by reaching out to each other. If someone, I don't care how little you have, if we're in tough times, somebody comes and honestly asks you for a little help, give it to them. If they become part of a little community that you're part of, they need to do what work they can too. We all need to do our part on the thing. The only welfare that there is in this stuff is for those that truly can't work, because everybody can do something. You need to work together. Then the other thing is, if somebody tries to come and take something from your little communities, you need to defend that community. I don't know where, it's not part of the ancient history of the church. They've gotten, somehow, people have gotten to this notion that Jesus is the relentless pacifist. That does not support it scripturally, it's not supported theologically. You can choose to be a victim yourself, but you're supposed to defend those around you when you can. Jesus in the 22nd chapter of Luke told his disciples, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and get one, because you're going to need it after I'm gone. Now, Jesus knew what swords are for. You need to defend your communities. And actually, this business of the relentless pacifist, that's not even a Catholic idea. That's a Protestant idea that rose about 250 years ago, and somehow the Catholic Church adopted it. It's so bizarre. We come up with all these ideas that just, you read a little bit of scripture, and it's not there. So these are the key things that you're supposed to do. Now, we're supposed to build each other up, not tear each other down. That's the biggest thing. Help each other out. I got to tell you a little bit about the visitation. See, and I don't go heavy in that in the talks, simply because I know I have the thing that I want you to know, and then normal human curiosity will take care of that. You'll be asking me about it when I get to it. having been told that this is the worst crisis in the history of civilization, that it would go on and on. It would get worse and worse, seem a little bit better for a short time, and get worse. In the end, we're not going to prevail. What's going to happen is we're going to be rescued visibly and miraculously by Our Lady. Everybody in the world will see it. Whether you're Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, whether you're atheist, everybody will see and know it was her. And there's two reasons that I know about for this. There may be more than that. Anytime I'm told something, like I say, you got to figure it out, and they tell you as you go along whether you're doing good or whether you've messed up and need to try it again. Our Lord is offended by many things, but there is nothing that so offends him as the general indifference and contempt with which so many people who call themselves Christians treat his mother. That is the single thing that most offends him. That's one of the reasons he sends his mother, so that all people will know how he honors her, and they will come to honor her again, as he does. And the second reason is, if Christ visibly came to rescue us all, he's not physically coming, and he's made that clear until it's the end of time. However, I was telling some people I was reading through something about a month and a half ago that made me think, this may be a wonderful grace God has given. And a wonderful grace, what I was reading about is people who are shipwrecked in a storm near shore. Most of them are found dead within sight of shore, but they didn't know they were within sight of shore. They gave up hope because they couldn't see the shore. This is going to get terrible. People will think it's the end. And I think that God has said, okay, Charlie, tell them where the shore is. And that way you get to the summer of 2017, they'll hold on a little longer, give themselves some time to get to shore. I think that's what that's about. It may be, I tell you what, when you work with them, when you work with angels, you don't get too proud about how smart you are. And the reason you don't, you need everything you've got just to try to keep up. The simplest concepts on that side of the veil sometimes take 2 or 3 years to get through, and I never have confidence that I've got it completely. If people could see, I think that this world is like, I sometimes call it the Shadowlands. That world is so much more real and all. If people knew, if you take the strongest man in the world, the strongest man in the history of the world is not as strong as a gnat is there. St. Thomas Aquinas, he had finally a visitation late in his life, and he never wrote anything again because he said, everything he's written is straw. I think if Thomas would have been, sometimes God always knows what he's doing, but I sometimes wish Thomas would have had a visitation earlier, because everything we have is worth less than monopoly money at a mall there. You know what I mean? Your smarts, your power, all of that, it's all passing away. Everything here is passing away. But those little talents that you have, they can be very useful here to bring people to the safety of God. I've been charged with mainly 3 things. And those 3 things are 3 prime duties: defend the faith, hearten the faithful, and defend the faithful. That's what I try to do. Right now, Satan is trying to pull everybody he can away from the safety of the faith, away from the safety of the church. Everything I do is designed to try to keep people to the safety of that. I can't save anybody, only Christ saves. Satan is using every tool to create dissension, to create confusion, to inflame malice, to inflame vanity. I'm telling you, you're going to be okay. Stay to the safety of the faith and the church. Don't go running off, chasing after false things. If, God forbid, I should ever say anything that is in contradiction to the church, I'll tell you right now, I would immediately repent of it, believe the church, not me. On the thing. Always. Jesus said he was giving us a church to guide us. My sole purpose is during this time and these events in history to try to encourage. I'm kind of like a glorified teddy bear, you know. I can kind of make you feel, some folks feel a little bit more comfortable during these times. That's all it is. The church is what he's entrusted things to. Now, many of you, I'm going to make this short. That way we'll have longer for questions and answers on things, and I'll go through some things, but one of the things I want to get to, one of the key things I want to get to, one of Satan's most powerful tools is to convince you that you're not worthy and have you despair and give up. Well, first of all, I'd recommend that you read the Old Testament prophets and kings all over again, because let me tell you, they were a raggedy bunch. You know, I mean, look at David. King David was a man after God's own heart. And other than writing psalms, about all he ever did was warring, winching, or whining. You know what I mean? It's hard to understand. That's why I say the next right step. Do not beat yourself up. Despair is a key. And that worrying about whether you're worthy or not, that is a very subtle form of vanity. You think there's something you can do for yourself that would make you worthy. I tell you right now that God is not concerned about whether you're worthy. He already knows along with you that you're not. What he's concerned about is whether or not you're willing. And if you're willing and humbly take up what's there, what he's called you to, which is the next right step, being a sign of hope, you can be a useful tool in his hands, but only if you're willing. That's really all it is on here. I gotta wipe my forehead. I'm feeling a little bit warm and sweaty. You know, I've been in South Florida, I've been in Birmingham, I've been in Atlanta, and I come to New Jersey to warm up. Go figure.
Take your jacket off.
Oh, well, in South Florida I didn't wear the jacket. It was almost 100 there, but I'll take the jacket off. So, I think that's my presentation for right now. I got to tell some of you, those that have read the website, I'm a little bit off my feed. I don't know if you know. You were there for when they were trying to pull the plug on young Joseph Cronin, right around the first of the year. There was a 12-year-old boy that had had asthma, and he had gone into respiratory arrest. He went into a coma. The hospital where he was at was going to pull the plug on him. And they were very aggressive about it, working through the readers. Our readers rose up as one. Bishop Rene Gracita of Texas got involved, and we worked together on it. Saved that boy's life. And the hospital had been dead wrong. They said there was no brain activity. Once we got the restraining order, when the test, they dropped that too, because there was a lot of brain activity on the thing. Well, Joseph had gotten well enough about a week and a half ago where he went home. He was still in a coma, and he went home, but he was strong, getting better, and he could get home care. Physically, he was strong. His father and all of his family were pretty enthused because he was responding more and more to things around him. You could tell, everybody could tell when he was pleased, when he was happy, when certain people came in, and that. I was pretty enthused because we went through a very intense period, and tomorrow, they live in New Jersey now. They started from Corpus Christi. I was going to go visit him and see him for the first time ever tomorrow. He died this morning.
Aww.
And he died, what really made it tragic was it had nothing to do with the coma. There was a catastrophic error made by one of the medical personnel caring for him, and they couldn't fix it. They took him to the hospital as he went into respiratory arrest again on the thing because they had messed up something, and he died in the hospital. I'll still be going out there tomorrow, but I'll be going out to physically meet the Cronins for the first time, to grieve with them rather than to rather than to meet young Joey. I know that he's interceding on our behalf right now, and it was because of the readers of the website that Rose is one to defend that boy, and because a bishop emeritus who was retired rose and did it. A lot of good people stood for life, and the experts were wrong, but God has his reasons to bring him home now, and that. But I was really looking forward to meeting Joey for the first time tomorrow, and it kind of hurts. So anyway, questions, comments? Let's take a few.